All right, rainy day, perfect day to talk about football. Even if it was sunny, still perfect day to talk about football. I'm going to go deep in the weeds here. I'm going to get niche. I'm going to put on, I think I saw Big Cat, a Barstool Sports recently say that if you know the guys when it gets to the 7th round, that you're a loser. And I guess I'm a loser. And even more than that, because we're going past the 7th round, and I want to talk about which undrafted guy on each team has the best chance of making a roster. Or should I say, undrafted guys at each position who has the best chance to make a roster, all right? And of course, let's start with quarterbacks. You got to start with quarterback. And one of my favorite players in the draft, let alone at quarterback, was Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels from Kansas. I had so much fun watching him on film. I know in the back of my head, I'm like, well, that's not going to work in the NFL. Well, he needs to get better feet. Well, he needs to settle down, and we need more pocket presence. When he overthrew that ball. But there were so many, that realistic stuff was going on in the back of my mind. But in the front of my mind, I'm like, holy crap, this guy's fun. He's elusive. He's always trying to push the ball down the field. He's got a longer release, but it whips out of his hand. He throws with a lot of velocity. He can throw it deep. And man, Jalen Daniels, well, it's bad to start it off like this when the video is about who can make a roster. The truth is, at quarterback, if you're undrafted, you're pretty much not making the active 53. I think the odds are really stacked against you. But Jalen Daniels is a guy who could be on the practice squad, and later into the season, if they pull him up onto the 53 and say he gets in a game because Baker's hurt and they just want to try it, that's going to be so much fun. Realistically, probably needs a year or two. Second, let's talk about running back, and let's talk about Desmond Reed, guy out of Pitt, now playing for Buffalo. This might be the most impactful undrafted free agent in the league. I'm telling you, you're going to see Desmond Reed on the field. He's a super dynamic receiver at running back. He's not very big, and size was at a premium this year, and that's why he went undrafted. He's Tyreek Cohen. I mean, I don't like when comps are simple and you say, oh, he's like that guy, because it's never fully one-to-one. Pretty much Tyreek Cohen's skill set. And I think in Buffalo, under Joe Brady with Josh Allen, that can be a ton of fun. And I think he's going to be a big, bonus to that offense. Wide receiver, and you'll start to notice a similar theme here. Let's talk about Aaron Anderson from the Colts. And he's another one who I thought he was a really good player, but size is in vogue this draft. And smaller slot receivers, some teams aren't even using them on the field, so they're not going to draft them. But I thought Aaron Anderson was good enough to get drafted. He's a separator. He's a reliable catch guy. He can give you some after the catch. But yeah, he's not super big and physical, and that's what the NFL was looking for. But if Cleveland does have an 11-10 personnel package, I think that dude can absolutely help that offense, especially because we know Cleveland was kind of struggling for receivers last year. Some other guys, receiver, Caldwell, Cincinnati guy going to Kansas City. That's an interesting one. And then this is what I really like. I forget his first name, but last name Manjack, and he's undrafted now with Denver. That is such a Sean Payton pickup. He reminds me of like who's the dude? Matt Collins. Yeah, he's always walking around barefoot. Like, he's that. He was at Houston, and then I think he went to TCU, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't play with gloves. Big receiver, reliable hands, big target. He's not a quick separator guy. He's not even a contested catch guy. He's one of those that he surprises you with his production, and he's just really reliable. And Denver didn't have a ton of draft picks, so their undrafted guys then have a better chance of making the roster. At offensive tackle, Nolan Rucci from Indy, and he's with the Colts now, undrafted. And he was at the Shrine Bowl, and I thought he was the best tackle at the Shrine Bowl. Not 100% sure why he didn't get picked, but he's just an obvious standout for me. Another, kind of a honorable mention, Alan Herron, out of Maryland. He got undrafted, signed by New Orleans, and they gave him a decent signing bonus. He's a bit of a tweener. I think that's probably why he didn't get drafted. Doesn't have a ton of tools, and he was a tweener between tackle and guard. Probably slide into guard at the next level. But he's good, productive, solid player, and so I think he can make some noise. And then another honorable mention, Isaiah World from the Chargers. He's not going to even play football this year. He tore his ACL in the pre-draft process, but he would have been a probably a day 2 player, maybe a day 3 tackle out of Oregon, and he got picked up by the Chargers. And so obviously he's not going to make the roster this year, but long term, players come back from ACLs, and I think he can make some noise. Let's go to interior offensive lineman. Let's go for Brocker. I don't even know this dude's first name, Brockermeyer from Miami, because the last name was so enamoring. I didn't even bother learning the first name. He's going to Atlanta. All right. He's the best interior lineman I saw that was an undrafted free agent. I had a draftable grade on him, an early day 3 grade. I'm not sure why he didn't get picked. I thought he had a bunch of good reps at the Senior Bowl. So that's my pick for interior. Interior D-line, again, with San Francisco. They added some, D-line help. I really like the Romello Height and the Grayson Halton draft in the 2nd and 4th round. And then undrafted to pick up James Thompson. I think his first name is James. I know his last name's Thompson, out of Illinois. It wasn't. Gabe Jacques was at the Senior Bowl. And then James Thompson, both from Illinois, is at the Shrine Bowl. And I thought James Thompson was violent hands. I thought he was quick. He can play mostly a 3 technique. He can split out the edge in some passing situations. I really like James Thompson's ability to get to the quarterback. And so hopefully that works out in San Francisco. At edge, probably one of the players I had highest rated on this list. The defensive guys who didn't get drafted kind of really surprised me, some of these. Indame Tucker from Western Michigan signed with the Chargers. He had, 12 sacks last year? He led the MAC in sacks, Mid-American Conference, and thought he had a good Senior Bowl showing. Just like with everyone else in this list, he's not a very big edge. He's not a run-setting edge. He's kind of a pure pass rush guy. But he's got some long arms, and he's got good pass rush moves. He's got good contact or balance on contact. And so I think he can make some noise. If we're going to go to linebacker, Dante Lawson with the Eagles. We know the Eagles love their Bama, Georgia, blue blood guys. Late round, undrafted players, even players like Zach Bond who've changed positions, have had a lot of success with Philly. Torian York is another interesting one at linebacker with Denver. I had a draftable grade on him, and Denver just didn't have that many draft picks, so if he makes a 53, wouldn't surprise me a ton. He's a very cerebral player, not necessarily super athletically gifted relative to other NFL athletes, of course. Corner, this guy, Thad Dixon from Carolina and Washington, Carolina last, picked up by the Giants. Out of any of the players on this list, other than Desmond Reed, I think he has the best chance of making a roster. I thought he was good in man coverage. I thought he could play a little bit in zone coverage. He isn't overly physical, overly intense, but he's a very solid player. And I thought, for my money, he might have been the top 3 best corners at the Senior Bowl. He made a ton of plays in one-on-ones and team at the Senior Bowl, and I was really surprised he wasn't drafted, though I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants were on the phone with him in the 6th round, kind of, putting a plan in place for him to be an undrafted player. Amari Harvey from Denver is another interesting one. Again, back to the theme of Denver just didn't have that many picks, and so a lot of these, by numbers, some of these undrafted guys are going to have to make it. And I thought Amari Harvey was a good player coming out of Georgia Tech. Safety is an interesting one. So it was kind of a tie there. Lewis Moore from Miami. He's an older guy. He's an older, smaller player. That's why he didn't get drafted from Indiana. But he made a ton of plays. And he might have been the smartest, most instinctual safety in the entire class. But yeah, he's going to be 26 when the season starts, which is my age. And I've been out of college for just about as long as I was in college. So it's crazy that he's just now leaving Indiana. But that, Miami, they're not exactly loaded at safety, and Lewis Moore is a very good player. I also had Bishop Fitzgerald at Tennessee. Again, not a super big physical player. His RAS score wasn't that high, so I guess that's why he didn't get drafted. But for my money, I thought Bishop Fitzgerald was better than Kamari Ramsey coming out of USC. I thought he was the better safety. I know Ramsey also has probably projects more as a nickel in the NFL. But again, Tennessee, just like Miami, isn't loaded at safety. And so I think Bishop Fitzgerald has a great chance to make some noise in that roster. I think I skipped over tight end, Dan Villari out of Syracuse. He's a guy who had recently transitioned to tight end. Syracuse didn't have a great offense, so he hasn't had that many reps. But if anyone knows how to develop tight ends and use them in this league, it's the freaking Rams. And this guy has some athletic tools, and there was a lot of players or teams that were interested in meeting with him in the pre-draft process. So I know teams like Dan Villari. So that's a pretty good pick there. And then a kicker. You would think I wouldn't have a kicker on this list, and you would be wrong. Okay, there's a guy Kenzie Matsuzawa, coming out of Hawaii and Japan native, I think, or Japan national, I think. He's an older one. He's not 22, 23. I think he's 25-ish. He got signed to the Raiders. I mean, really accurate kicker. He's not Mr. booming it from 60, but he was very reliable, very accurate. And so, if I had to pick a specialist, I guess I'd go with Kenzie Matsuzawa out of Hawaii, all right? Enough nerdy now for today. I'm going to go do something else than talk about undrafted players. Peace.